still hear the sound. That crash. Glass raining down like a thunderstorm on concrete. Can you believe someone lost their mind so badly? Over a jacket. A jacket. It was one of those perfect crisp mornings downtown. The kind where you sip coffee, feel the hum of the city, and everything seems almost cinematic. The boutique shop stood there with its glossy black doors. Music humming softly through hidden speakers. Neon lights promising exclusivity. It was their grand event. Final sale. One-of-a-kind designer pieces. You could practically smell the adrenaline from the line outside. I was there too, clutching my number card. Nervous but excited. I wasn't even aiming for the high-ticket items. Just something nice for my sister. But little did I know, Karen was in that line too. From the very beginning. She was pacing, huffing, checking her phone like she was counting down to a rocket launch. She had that air about her. You know the type. Sunglasses bigger than her face. Lips pressed in. Voice pitched just sharp enough to cut glass. When someone accidentally brushed her arm, she snapped. "Excuse you. Watch where you're going." People side-eyed her but kept quiet. The store staff unlocked the doors, and like water breaking a dam, we flowed in. The air was charged. Pop music played. The racks shimmered with clothes that looked like they belonged in magazines, and everyone scattered like it was a treasure hunt. Then, in the far corner, I saw it. The piece everyone had been whispering about. The limited edition winter coat. Midnight blue. Velvet trim. Hand-stitched. Only one left. And of course, someone beat her to it. It wasn't even me. It was this soft-spoken college kid. Maybe 19 at most. He held the coat carefully. His face lit up like he'd just found buried treasure. You could feel the pride in his eyes. That's when it happened. Karen's heels clacked against the marble floor like a war drum. She stormed right up to him. "That's mine. Give it to me." The boy blinked, confused. I already paid." He held up the receipt nervously. Karen's laugh was sharp, venomous. "Sweetie, you don't understand. I need that coat. I was here first. Hand it over." The kid shook his head, his voice trembling. "Sorry, ma'am. It's the last one." Her face twisted. I swear I thought smoke would pour out of her ears. And then, slam. She slapped the receipt out of his hand. Gasps echoed through the store. I froze, my coffee cup shaking. "Security," someone whispered. But Karen wasn't done. "Oh no." She turned to the staff, stabbing her finger at the counter. "I demand you refund him. Ring it back. Do you hear me? I'll pay double." The cashier stammered. "Ma'am, it's already sold. We can't." That word, can't. It was like gasoline to her fire. Her shriek pierced the air. "Do you know who I am?" The boy bent down, trying to pick up his receipt. He looked terrified. And in that chaos, Karen made the move that turned a tantrum into a crime. With one wild swing of her handbag, she struck the storefront display. That massive, floor-to-ceiling glass panel shattered into a million glittering shards. The sound was deafening, like a gunshot followed by an avalanche. People screamed. Someone yelled, "Call 911." And Karen, she just stood there, chest heaving, eyes blazing, like she expected applause. For a moment, silence hovered, the kind of silence that burns your ears. Then came the slow clap of reality. A store manager, calm, collected, stepped forward. "Ma'am, that's a $15,000 window." Karen's jaw dropped. "That's your fault. You provoked me. I was promised." "No, ma'am. You broke it." Security closed in. Her voice grew shriller. She twisted, pointed at random customers. And me even. "They're lying. I was assaulted. He tried to take it from me." But cameras don't lie. And there were plenty of them. The twist. Remember that boy she tried to bully? Yeah. Turns out his uncle was standing right outside. Not just an uncle. A cop. Off duty. Lunch break. Badge in his pocket. He stepped in with a calm authority that made the entire room inhale. "Ma'am, put the bag down. Right now." Karen froze. You can't." The badge flashed. The crowd murmured like an audience at a theater. And then came the real twist. The boutique was owned by a family who had dealt with her before. This wasn't her first meltdown. In fact, they had a file. Reports. Incidents where she tried to scam refunds, bully clerks, even call lawyers to threaten lawsuits. This was just the climax. Karen started crying. Fake tears. Loud sobs. "I'm the victim here. You don't understand." But nobody bought it. Not this time. As officers arrived, the shattered glass crunching under their boots, Karen's voice cracked into hysteria. She begged. She cursed. She even tried to bribe them. "I'll pay. Just don't arrest me. It's just glass." But the boy, still holding his precious coat, stood tall for the first time. His voice was steady now. "No. She scared me. She tried to take it from me. She broke it on purpose." His courage shifted the room. Applause broke out. Not mocking, but supportive. A collective exhale. Karen was cuffed right there. Her designer bag slipping off her arm, clattering onto the broken glass. The irony was too sharp to miss. She wanted to shine. But now the only spotlight was the red and blue flashing through the shattered storefront. You'd think that was the end, right? But karma wasn't done. Because when the insurance report came out, it wasn't just the window she had to pay for. It was damages, lost revenue, the emergency call fee, stacking up to nearly $30,000. And the cherry on top. The boutique banned her permanently. So did every other high-end store in that district once the video went viral. Imagine Karen, the self-proclaimed queen of luxury, locked out of her kingdom. The bitterness in her eyes as they drove her away. I walked out that day with nothing but my half-cold coffee and the echo of her downfall in my ears. But the boy, he walked out with his coat and a story he'll tell for the rest of his life. I swear, I still ask myself, what made her think she could get away with it? Was it entitlement, arrogance, or just the belief that rules bend for people like her? Whatever it was, the crash of that glass was the sound of her empire crumbling. So next time you see someone like her, remember, karma doesn't just knock. Sometimes it shatters $15,000 worth of glass just to prove a point. And me, I'll never forget that morning downtown. Thanks for listening, and if you enjoyed this wild ride of justice served cold, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more stories just like this. You ever have one of those moments where your whole life could depend on something small? Pen. A click. A single second. That was me, standing in my driveway, staring at my neighbor Karen as she snapped my EpiPen in half, thinking it was some kind of weapon. I swear, couldn't even breathe. My chest tightened. My world went blurry. And the only thought racing through my head was, she just killed me. I should rewind. I live in this homeowners association neighborhood. Typical suburbia. Cookie-cutter houses. Perfectly trimmed lawns. Neighbors who smile at you with dead eyes. And then there's Karen. She's the kind of woman who believes she's queen of the block. Clipboard in one hand. Phone in the other. Always 2 seconds away from calling the cops over a garbage bin being 2 inches off the curb. You know the type, right? Yeah. Only worse. Now, here's the thing about me. I have a severe allergy. One bite of the wrong thing. One sting from a bee. One trace of peanuts. And my throat closes up. It's not mildly inconvenient. It's life or death. So, I carry an EpiPen everywhere. Purse. Glove box, jacket pocket, you name it. That little injector is the reason I'm still alive. Karen. She thought it was a taser, a weapon, a threat. And that paranoia nearly killed me. It all started on a stupidly hot Saturday afternoon. I was pulling weeds from my front yard, sweat dripping down my back, when Karen strutted over like she owned the sidewalk. She squinted at me, arms crossed, lips pursed like she'd sucked on a lemon. You know the homeowners association doesn't allow invasive species in the front lawn. She snapped, pointing at the dandelions. I laughed, brushing dirt off my knees. They're weeds, Karen. Everyone has them. Relax. That should have been the end of it. But no. Karen's the kind who can't walk away from an argument without winning. She stepped closer, invading my space. I could feel her perfume, something sharp, almost suffocating, filling my lungs. My heart rate spiked, not because of her, but because I felt that familiar itch in my throat. My tongue started to swell. Panic kicked in. Oh no, not now, not here. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my EpiPen and uncapped it. My hands were trembling. My chest burned. I just needed one quick shot. One click. Relief in seconds. But before I could even press it, Karen shrieked like I'd drawn a gun. What is that? It's medicine. I tried to croak, my voice already strangled. It's an EpiPen. I need it. She slapped it right out of my hand. The plastic cracked against the pavement. I gasped, desperate, clawing for air. She stomped on it with her heel. The sound, that awful snap, still haunts me. You're not pulling a weapon on me, she shouted, waving her arms like a maniac. I know a taser when I see one. A taser. My vision tunneled. My ears rang. I remember falling, knees slamming the ground, palms scraping on hot concrete. My neighbors came out, faces blurred and distant. Someone screamed. Someone else yelled to call 911. And Karen, she just stood there, breathing heavy, her face twisted with righteous fury. I thought, this is it. This is how I go. Not from peanuts, not from bees, but from a neighbor's stupidity. I woke up in the hospital hours later. Tubes in my arms, monitors beeping, oxygen pumping into my lungs. The doctor told me plain and simple, if the paramedics had arrived 2 minutes later, I'd be dead. My throat was nearly swollen shut when they gave me the emergency injection. Do you know what it feels like to wake up and realize your survival was stolen out of your own hands? Because someone broke the only thing keeping you alive. That mix of rage and terror. That hollow pit in your chest when you realize your neighbor doesn't see you as a person. Just a problem. Yeah. That's what I felt. And as soon as I had the strength, I made a call. To the police. Here's where things got twisted. When officers showed up to question her, Karen doubled down. She actually tried to press charges against me. She told them I'd threatened her with a weapon. That I lunged at her. That she feared for her life. Couldn't believe it. I mean, I was lying in a hospital bed because of her and she was spinning the story like I was the villain. The cops didn't buy it. They'd seen enough EpiPens. They'd heard the 911 calls. They had witness statements from 3 neighbors who saw everything. Still, Karen ranted and raved, her voice cracking, insisting she was protecting the community. Protecting them from what? Me staying alive. But here's the kicker. The Homeowners Association board got involved. You know they couldn't resist. A medical emergency in their pristine little cul-de-sac. Scandalous. They called a meeting. They wanted to review the incident. As if my fight for breath was some kind of rule violation they had to vote on. I dragged myself to that meeting, stitches in my hand, still bruised from collapsing on the driveway. Karen sat across the table, smug as ever, whispering to her little clique of cronies. I swear, my blood boiled just looking at her. When it was my turn to speak, I laid it all out. The allergy, the EpiPen, how she snapped it in half while I begged for air, the hospital stay, the doctor's words. You could hear a pin drop when I finished. Even her friends shifted uncomfortably in their chairs. But Karen. She smirked. I was acting in self-defense. She said, loud and clear. That device looked dangerous. How was I supposed to know it wasn't a weapon? That's when I snapped. My voice shook, but it was steady enough. You don't get to play dumb when your ignorance almost kills someone. You don't get to rewrite what happened because you can't admit you were wrong. You broke my lifeline. Karen. That's not self-defense. That's assault. The room erupted. Gasps. Murmurs. A few shouts. And the police officer sitting in the back. He stood up, walked right over to her and slapped cuffs on her wrists. The look on her face. Shock. Outrage. Disbelief. It was the first time I'd ever seen her lose control. She screamed. Of course. Kicked her chair back. This is harassment. I'm the victim here. But nobody was buying it. Not anymore. The charge. Felony assault. Reckless endangerment. She'd made her bed and now she was lying in it. And you know what? For once, the homeowners association had nothing to say. Their little queen bee had fallen and not even her rules could save her. But let me tell you, justice doesn't erase trauma. I still wake up sometimes in the middle of the night, choking, my hand reaching for a pen that isn't there. My new EpiPens are lined up in every room of my house, like soldiers on guard duty. I don't take a step outside without double-checking my pockets. And Karen, she's out on bail, waiting for trial. She avoids me now, scurrying into her house whenever she sees me. But I know the truth. She knows the truth. And soon, the court will too. Funny thing is, I heard through the grapevine that her husband left. Said he couldn't take her paranoia anymore. The homeowners association stripped her of her position. Her little group of followers. Scattered. It's like watching a fallen dictator. Alone. Bitter. Powerless. And the irony. She wanted to protect the neighborhood from me. But in the end, she destroyed her own life. Sometimes karma doesn't knock politely. Sometimes it crashes down. Loud and merciless. Like the sound of an EpiPen snapping in two. And when it does, you just sit back. Breathe deep and let it burn. Because this time, the pain wasn't mine to carry. It was hers. And if you've ever had a Karen nearly ruin your life, you know exactly how sweet that bitter ending feels. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit that bell so you never miss the next crazy story. I wish I was making this up. 1 minute I was reaching for a can of soup. The next I am staring at a stranger's handprint on my shoulder. And the worst part? She was already yelling about fraud before I could even breathe. Excuse me, you're parked in a disabled spot and you don't look disabled, she barked, her voice slicing through the quiet supermarket like a rusty blade. Heads turned. My ears rang. And then Crasher elbow swept into the pyramid of canned tomatoes, sending them clanging and rolling across the tile like tiny metal grenades. I took one step back. Ma'am, No, don't you ma'am me. This is fraud. You people fake those tags all the time. I've seen it. She spat, her lips curling in disgust. You probably forged that paperwork just so you can take the good spots while real disabled people suffer. My stomach twisted. My disabled placard isn't just real, it's the result of months in physical therapy after a drunk driver shattered my hip. And the audacity of her? She didn't know a damn thing about me. I glanced at the security camera overhead. Good. Let it record everything. Lady, I've had 3 surgeries just to walk without a cane, I said, my voice low but trembling. You don't get to decide who looks disabled. Her eyes narrowed. Don't play victim with me. I'm on the HOA board, I know how to spot liars. She stepped closer, her perfume stabbing my nose like overripe flowers in summer heat. Then she raised her phone, shoving it in my face. I'm filming this for evidence. I'm gonna make sure the police see how you're scamming the system. My jaw clenched. Evidence? Oh, she was handing me evidence on a silver platter. The store manager, a wiry man in his 50s with a nervous twitch, jogged over. Ma'am, please. Karen spun toward him, her voice suddenly syrupy. This woman is committing disability fraud. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen. If you let her shop here, you're liable too. I could feel the burn of stares from every aisle. My cheeks flushed not with shame, but with that electric mix of anger and adrenaline that makes your fingers tingle. I almost laughed, right there in her face, because I knew something she didn't. 2 weeks earlier, a friend in the HOA had shown me an internal email and actual printed copy where this very Karen was under investigation for forged HOA reimbursement checks. The board was quietly sweeping it under the rug to avoid public embarrassment, but the whispers were already growing. And now, she was accusing me of fraud? Oh, the universe was serving this on a hot plate. Manager, I said, keeping my voice steady. Can you call store security? I'm feeling threatened. Karen scoffed so loud it echoed. Threatened? What are you gonna dokri on me? The metallic clatter of rolling cans still filled the air as 2 uniformed security officers emerged from the back. One, a tall woman with sharp eyes, walked straight toward us. What's going on here? Karen jumped in before I could open my mouth. This woman's using a forged disabled tag. I demand you check it. The officer tilted her head. Ma'am, we're not the DMV. And you just knocked over a whole display. That was an accident, Karen shrilled. Don't you see? She's a fraud. I finally let out a sharp laugh, just one. Because I could see the cracks forming in her confidence. Security, you should know, I said, raising my phone. I've recorded everything she said to me, and I happen to have proof she's being investigated for forged checks by her own HOA. The officer's brows lifted. Is that true? Karen's face went pale, then blotchy red. That's irrelevant, she snapped a little too fast. No, the officer said slowly. That's very relevant, because it means you're harassing someone while you're under investigation yourself. That's enough for trespassing. Karen's mouth opened, closed, then opened again like a fish gasping in a dry bucket. The manager stepped in, rubbing his temples. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store. You can't. But she didn't get to finish. The tall officer took her elbow knot gently and started walking her toward the doors. Yes, we can. And if you come back before we say so, you'll be charged with criminal trespass. Karen struggled, her heels squeaking against the tile. This isn't over. I'll sue you all. I almost wanted to clap. Almost. Instead, I just sighed and picked up the can I dropped in the chaos. As the doors whooshed shut behind her, the store seemed to exhale. Conversations resumed. Carts rolled. Somewhere a baby giggled. But I wasn't done. Because here's the twist: her HOA fraud investigation? It wasn't just rumors anymore. Later that night, I forwarded the video of her supermarket meltdown, along with my proof of her forged checks, to the county attorney's office. It was like tossing gasoline on a smoldering fire. Within days, her name was buzzing all over the neighborhood. People were digging up old grievances fines she'd slapped on residents for unauthorized plants, threats she'd made about paint colors. And when the HOA's treasurer finally admitted funds were missing, well, you could almost hear the pitchforks sharpening. I got a call from my friend on the HOA board 3 weeks later. You won't believe the Scarens trying to sue the HOA for defamation. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my coffee. Let me guess, claiming the check forgery was a setup? Bingo, my friend said. Only problem is, the bank has her signature on all 3 checks. She's cooked. Cooked was putting it lightly. By the time the HOA's lawyer was through, not only was Karen's lawsuit tossed out, but she was ordered to repay the stolen funds plus court costs. And the cherry on top, the judge noted her pattern of harassment toward neighbors and members of the public. I thought of that moment in the store, her red face, her shrill voice, the cans hitting the floor, and felt that same electric rush. Only this time it was pure satisfaction. By the end of summer, Karen was a ghost in the neighborhood. Her once perfectly manicured lawn went wild, dandelions scattering like tiny yellow warnings. She stopped showing up at HOA meetings, which was almost funny considering she used to bang the gavel like she was presiding over the Supreme Court. I'd see her car no more smug wave from behind the wheel pull into her driveway late at night, lights snapping off fast, like she didn't want anyone to know she was home. Word was, she'd been spotted at the courthouse 3 separate times, each visit shorter than the last, each one ending with her leaving red-faced and silent. The lawsuit she'd filed against the HOA had imploded spectacularly. She tried to claim the forged checks were accidental duplicates of legitimate expenses, but the forensic handwriting expert the HOA's lawyer hired tore that story apart in about 5 minutes. The judge, in open court, called her explanation a clear and deliberate act of fraud. I wish I could say I felt bad for her, but then I'd remember the sharp sting of her hand on my shoulder in that store, the humiliation in front of strangers, the way she spit the word fraud at me like she owned the truth. No, I didn't feel bad. Not one bit. What did surprise me was how quickly people turned on her. The same neighbors who used to cower when she sent HOA violation letters were suddenly sharing her mugshot from the county website. Someone even printed it out and taped it to the bulletin board by the community pool, right under the calendar for potlucks and yoga classes. It stayed there for 2 whole weeks before anyone took it down. And me? I went back to the same supermarket a month later. The same store manager spotted me in the soup aisle and gave me a small nod. "She's banned for life," he said quietly. Video of that day came in handy. I just smiled. Glad to hear it. There's a particular satisfaction in knowing the person who tried to publicly shame you ended up publicly shamed themselves. Only in her case it was earned. And that's the real sting of karma, isn't it? You never know when the same energy you throw at someone is going to come boomeranging right back, faster and harder than you can handle. Karen had set out to humiliate me, to label me a fraud, to build her own little case in the court of public opinion. Instead, she walked straight into her own courtroom nightmare, one she couldn't slap her way out of, no matter how loud she got. If you think that's justice served with a side of poetic irony, you'll love the other stories we've got, so hit that subscribe button on my YouTube channel, because the next lawsuit is even wilder. I never thought an HOA meeting could turn into something straight out of a courtroom drama, but that night? Oh, that night changed everything. Karen, our self-appointed neighborhood tyrant, was already red in the face when she stomped into the community hall, but I swear the sound of her heels was sharper than her voice. You know that click, click, click on polished tile that just screams, "Here comes trouble"? Yeah, that. "You think you can just fire me without consequences?" She snapped at the HR rep from our HOA's management company, her voice slicing through the murmurs in the room. My stomach tightened instantly. I'd been through months of her harassment, false fines, anonymous complaints, and threats about my yard being non-compliant. And now, I was watching her melt down in real time. She'd been let go earlier that week after HR found serious irregularities in HOA invoices. Let's be real, irregularities was just the polite word for it. We're talking forged signatures, inflated vendor payments, and get this, charging us twice for landscaping that never even happened. Fraud. Straight up fraud. And the kicker? She'd been skimming from the budget for years, hiding it behind emergency repairs. I was already ready to give my statement if it came to that. But I had no idea how fast this was about to spiral. Karen's voice dropped, all icy now. "You people think you're clever, but you forget I know where the bodies are buried." The HR rep pulled and flinch. "Karen, we've concluded our investigation. Your termination is final. And given the evidence, our legal department will be in touch." Her eyes snapped to me. "And you?" she hissed, jabbing a finger in my direction. "Don't think I don't know you're behind this. Feeding them lies about me, costing me my job. You're nothing but..." I swear I didn't even see it coming. 1 second she's mid-insult, the next bang. Something hard and cold slammed into the side of my head. My ears rang. My vision blurred. I looked down, Andiepa stapler. Not a little handheld one either, but one of those big, heavy-duty, office-grade beasts. Gasps exploded around the room. Someone shouted, "Call 911. Another voice shaky said, "Oh my God. She just assaulted him." Karen just stood there, breathing hard, her face twisted like she didn't even recognize what she'd done. "He deserved it," she spat. "All of you are going to regret this." I pressed my hand to the side of my head. Warmth. Sticky. Great. Blood. By the time the police showed up, sirens cutting through the humid summer night, Karen, had gone from defiant to screeching about conspiracies. "You're all in on it. This is harassment. This is a setup." She was cuffed right there in the meeting hall, still yelling over her shoulder as they walked her out. I thought that was it. Justice had finally shown up early for once. But oh no, that was just the opening act. 2 days later I get a letter. Not from the HOA, from her lawyer. She was suing me. I actually laughed out loud at first. It was that or scream. Her claim? Defamation of character and emotional distress. She even claimed I'd provoked her in front of witnesses and that I'd been spreading falsehoods to ruin her reputation. Except here's the thing, her evidence packet was full of forged emails, supposedly from me to other residents, calling her names and making threats. But the fonts didn't match. The timestamps were impossible. And one of the emails was dated for a day I'd been out of the country, complete with a boarding pass to prove it. I sat there, holding that stack of fake screenshots, and I swear my hands were shaking, but not from fear. No, this was rage. I wasn't about to just defend myself. I was going to burn her entire scheme down. My lawyer Jeff nearly whistled when I showed him the forgeries. This is textbook. We're talking not just perjury if she submits this in court, but criminal fraud. You sure you're ready to go all the way with this? I nodded. Oh, I'm ready. Court day came faster than I expected. The air inside that municipal building was stale, heavy with that faint scent of copier toner and floor wax. Karen walked in wearing a crisp white blazer, like she thought she was the wronged party in some high-profile Netflix docuseries. She wouldn't even look at me probably because the side of my head still had a healing scar from where the stapler hit. Her lawyer went first, painting her as a respected former HOA board member, wrongfully terminated due to unfounded accusations. My jaw clenched so hard I thought my teeth might crack. Then came the emails. The smoking gun. I almost felt sorry for the poor guy when Jeff stood up for cross-examination. Almost. "Ms. Carter," Jeff said, his tone smooth as glass. "Could you explain why one of these emails is dated February 29th, 2023? You're aware there was no leap day that year." The room went dead silent. Karen's mouth opened, closed, opened again. It must have been a typo." "Oh, so it's a typo," Jeff nodded. "And this one," he held up another page, "is from an email address that my client never owned. We've already subpoenaed the ISP, and the account was created 2 weeks after this alleged message was sent. Care to explain that, too?" Her lawyer shifted uncomfortably. Karen's face flushed deep crimson. And that's when Jeff dropped the real hammer. "We also have a sworn statement from an IT contractor," he continued, "confirming that the metadata on these documents shows they were generated from your personal laptop, which, by the way, was seized by police as part of the assault investigation." There was an audible gasp from the spectators. I swear I heard someone mutter, "Oh, she's done." Karen's hand flew to her mouth. "That's a lie," she shouted, standing so fast her chair clattered backward. "This is all lies." The judge banged her gavel. "Ms. Carter, sit down. Now." By the time court adjourned, the defamation suit had been tossed. But that wasn't all. Karen was now facing additional charges for submitting falsified evidence. Workplace assault, fraud, forgery, the list was getting long. Walking out of that courtroom, the summer air hit me like a fresh breath after months underwater. My head still ached sometimes when I chewed, and the HOA would be untangling her financial mess for years, but I'd watched her smug power crumble right in front of her. The part she didn't know? I'd just been contacted by the DA's office. They wanted me as a witness in the criminal trial. And oh, I was ready. The criminal trial was like watching the last act of a slow-motion car crash. You knew the wreck was coming, but you couldn't look away. Karen shuffled in wearing a county-issue beige sweater, her hair pulled back so tight it looked like it hurt. Gone was the white blazer and fake confidence. She looked small. Not sorry. Mind you, Karen wasn't capable of that, but cornered. The prosecution laid it all out. The forged emails, the inflated vendor contracts, the double billing for repairs that never happened. And, of course, the night she turned a stapler into a weapon. When the IT forensic expert took the stand, he pulled up her laptop's file directory for the jury. Every forged email she'd claimed came from me, sitting right there in her drafts folder. Some of them were even labeled HOA fake final, like she thought she was producing a school project. Her lawyer kept trying to spin it. She was under extreme emotional distress. She feared for her livelihood, but every excuse just made her look guiltier. And then came the witness I wasn't expecting, Paul from HR. Calm, precise, and armed with a signed confession Karen had given him months earlier when she thought she could negotiate her way out of termination. It was like watching someone hand the jury the last puzzle piece. The jury didn't even take 3 hours. Guilty, on all counts. When the judge read the sentence 18 months in county jail, restitution to the HOA and a 5-year ban from serving on any HOA board, you could see the fight leave her. Her shoulders sagged. Her hands trembled just enough to make the cuffs rattle. I thought that would be the end, but Karen had one more bitter twist coming. See, in civil court, the HOA had filed their own lawsuit to recover the stolen funds, and thanks to her criminal conviction, there was no way for her to dodge liability. Not only was she losing her freedom, she was losing her house. The same house where she'd lorded her fake authority over all of us for years. It was going to be sold off to pay back the neighbors she'd been bleeding dry. The day the moving truck pulled up to her driveway, I didn't even have to go look, but I did. Just for closure. She stood on her porch, clutching a box of mismatched kitchenware, glaring at anyone who dared meet her eyes. But there was nothing left to throw.
No staples.
No power. I turned to walk away, feeling lighter than I had in years. Not because I'd won anything, but because the neighborhood was finally free of her chaos. And if there's one thing I learned through all of this, it's that bullies like Karen count on people staying quiet. The second you shine a light on their lies, whether it's fraud, forged evidence, or full-blown assault, their empire crumbles faster than they ever thought possible. If you want more real-life drama, outrageous twists, and satisfying lawsuit showdowns like this one, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel for the next jaw-dropping case.